tukianza Testing. Good afternoon, everyone. We are just about to start. Welcome. I can see quite a number have joined. Welcome. I can see teachers from Uasin Gishu County. Karibuni sana. I can see teachers from Kisumu. Welcome, welcome. Wale wa Kilifi, karibuni. Welcome to the training, the national training, Kpsa. Watu wa Taita Taveta, karibuni sana. Mombasa, feel welcome to the meeting. Naona teachers from Kakamega County. Karibuni, karibuni sana for this training. Kuna wa Narok pia. Karibuni wa Narok. Nandi County, you are well represented. Feel welcome. Karibuni sana. Watu wa Kwale, Coastal Region, feel welcome to this meeting. Naona kuna watu wa Bomet, Baringo, Bungoma. Karibuni sana walimu for this training. Migori, I can see you are fully represented. Karibuni sana watu wa Migori. Naona kuna watu wa Busia, Bungoma, karibuni sana for this particular meeting. Trans Nzoia, Nakuru, feel welcome for this particular training. I can see kuna wale wa Siaya, Nyandarua, karibuni sana walimu for this training. Now, we are about to begin the program of the day, and I want to inform all of us that this is a virtual English teachers training organized by Kenya Private Schools Association. We've lined up a number of trainings of this kind. From yesterday, we started with the mathematics for the upper class teachers, that is class 6, 7, 8. We started with mathematics and we'll continue this way up to the end of the week. So feel welcome. We want to formally begin in a short while, in 2 minutes time. Karibuni sana. I can see there are those from Samburu. Samburu people have also joined. Karibuni sana. Kitui, naona wale wa Mwingi wameingia. Kunao pia watu wa Bigwani pia wamekuja. Karibuni sana for this particular training. Now we are formally beginning. I'm requesting us to honor God even as we begin the training of the day. And as such, I'll request our sister Cecilia Musomba to lead us in a word of prayer. Karibu sana, Cecilia.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon to you.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we gathered before your presence this afternoon. We thank you for the day and the activities that we have had. As we start this virtual meeting, we ask for your guidance, wisdom, and protection throughout the meeting. It is in Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Madam Cecilia, for the prayers. Now, I take this chance to formally welcome all of us for this national virtual training for English teachers of English, organized by Kenya Private Schools Association. My name is George Okumu, a Senior Programs Officer at Kenya Private Schools Association. I'll be the moderator for this meeting. Now, maybe before we formally begin, you've joined the meeting via a Zoom webinar, and ordinarily you are muted, but we'll give you access to talk. So in the meantime, I'll take you through the program, and maybe if one has an issue that you may want to raise in the course of the meeting, of the training, we have the icon for the chat. We have the chat column. You can air your questions or raise up any issue that you may want to be addressed by the facilitators in the course of the training. Now there's the icon for raising of hands. That will only come during the time for question and answer. That is the time that you can click in raising of hands icon so that we know who has a question to be answered when that time will come. So the program of today ordinarily is to start, and already has started, and we'll go through the program up to around 6 p.m. in the evening. We are starting with the introduction and preliminaries, which already I'm in the process of doing so. After that, we'll welcome the facilitators. We have 2 facilitators who will take us through proven ways of improving English performances in schools, as well as a brief of analysis analyzing the exam that was done, that is end of term 1 exams. After their presentations, we'll have a plenary session. During the plenary session, you will be given a chance to ask questions. You can raise up a question that you may want the facilitators to take you through or to address. Then after the plenary session, so it is at the plenary session, that is the time that we'll now be having question and answer session. That is when, at that point, when you have a question, you'll press the raise hand icon so that we can see who wants to ask a question. Then we'll unmute you from this end and allow you to speak. But for now, up to the end of the presentations, you'll only be listening from our end as you follow the proceedings. But you can still use the chat column to raise issues, maybe if there is a question, a comment, a suggestion, or any matter that may be arising in the course of the training. Now, going to the matter of the day, we have the virtual teachers training for teachers of English, and we are doing this with respect to relooking at end of term 1 examinations that was done, that is Kpsa national examination end of term 1, that was done between the dates of 22nd to 24th of September. Now, Kenya Private Schools Association examinations, we normally conduct 2 types of examinations from PP1 to Study 8. All the classes are normally, we offer exams for all those classes. And we have 2 exams every year, or rather every term, that is midterm and end term, except in term 2, that we normally have 3 exams. Like in this term 2, we are going to have 3 exams. We'll have the midterm, which is coming 2nd to 4th of the week of 2nd of November. Then we'll have mathematics challenge, or rather science, the challenge exams, and then we'll finish with the end of term 2 examinations. So that has always been the trend over the years. Now, we looked at the manner in which we've been conducting our examinations, and we felt as an association that we need to do extra rather than just be telling schools, order your exams with us and do you book with us and then we supply you the examinations. We felt that we can do slightly extra so that we can add value to the exams, to our exams, as well as to adding value to our member schools. And it is for this reason that we felt that we now want to link our examinations and training. Now, this will help schools in 2 ways. One, in the process of training, we will be highlighting the topics that were well done by most students, and we'll also be highlighting those topics that were not well answered by many students. So this will help the teacher in charge of a particular subject, like for example, for your case, it's English. You look at the performances of your pupils in English, say class 6. If you discover that they are not performing well, you still have time to go back and look at some of the topics that have been highlighted through the trainings or through the analysis, so that you can either set some time to revisit such topics, or maybe to find other methods of trying to talk to the pupils so that they can improve in the subsequent examinations. Now, we also decided that we will be doing analysis for all our Kpsa examinations. So after the schools have booked examinations before the deadline and pay for it before the deadline, we supply and deliver in good time. Then invigilation of these examinations ordinarily is done by the teachers in that particular school. So we always encourage that during the time for invigilation, the teachers should strictly adhere to the timing of every paper. If a paper is to take exactly 2 hours, like for example, mathematics, the teacher should strictly ensure that the paper is sat within the 2 hours. Don't give your pupils leeway until they finish, because that will not be good training. Part of what we do is to train them so that they get used to the normal or the standard way of sitting a particular paper, exam paper, within the stipulated time. So another reason why we insist on strict invigilation is not to give students room for copying from one another or copying from textbooks or referring to notes that had been given earlier by teachers. If this is done at school level, normally allows the teacher to get the true position, the true picture of the performances of the students in his or her class. But if there's laxity during invigilation, then the results you're going to get at the end of the day may not directly give the true reflection of the performances of those pupils. So we encourage teachers during the time of invigilation, stick to the timing and also be strict so as not to let students get access to other aiding materials that may make them give results that are not the true results that you expect from them. Now, after the exams have been done, they are normally marked at school level because we supply exams with the marking schemes. Then we've also introduced the idea of analysis of the examinations, where we are encouraging our member schools, after you've done the examinations, you do the analysis at class level and at subject level, then you send us your analyzed results. These analyzed results, we compare with schools from other regions so that we compile a list of all the schools that have given us their results. And then we kind of create a list that a school can compare how their pupils are performing compared to schools or other pupils of other schools in other regions. Like the exam that we are talking about, that is end of term 1, 2021 examinations. We had for class 6, the schools that booked, and we supplied from our figures here, we have the schools that booked were 2,110, but we supplied 1,200 because about 900 never paid. For Kpsa examinations, you make the bookings and you also pay. That is when we supply. We don't supply exams that have not been paid for. Then those that returned the exam, their paper, their results for analysis. For class 6, we have 479. Those are the schools that returned their exams for analysis. For class 7, we have 431 schools. For class 8, we had 402 schools. We are encouraging schools not to shy off from sharing their analyzed results, because in the analysis that we do, our main intention or main reason is not to rank the school so that your school is badly exposed. In the final analysis, we don't even indicate the school name. The school can only identify, the teachers can only identify their school performance based on the mean that they gave to us. But another teacher from a different school may not be able to know where the ranking of the position of their schools in the overall list. Maybe you'll allow me to share with you briefly how the analysis sheet looks like. Now if you look at the screen, you can see the analyzed list. It indicates this is for class 6. it indicates under school, you can only see Kpsa ET1, and it is the same all through. So it is difficult even for anyone to know school number 1 is which school and is from which region, school number 2 the same. What you can only know, if you had submitted to us your results, you look at the total or the overall mean score. Like number 1 in class 6 had a mean score of 380.16. So the teachers of that particular school know that this one is our school, but you can't know even number 2 is from which school. So basically, this is the kind of analysis that we do at Kpsa. The reason why we do it this way, one, we are not in the business of ranking schools. We don't want to expose anyone's school negatively. But if you get this kind of results, you look at if the best school had a mean of 380.16 and your school gets a mean of 250, for example, it tells you as a teacher that there's some work that you still need to do as a school. And then you can also look at the column for your subject. Like if you look at, in this case, the highest mean for English was 671.57. So if your school performance or subject performance for your pupils of class 6 in your school has got a mean of say 58.21, it means that it tells you that there's some work that you have to do. So basically, we are trying to encourage schools to be sending to us their analyzed results so that you can compare how does my pupils in, say, Nairobi County compare with pupils of a school in, say, Uasin Gishu County, and also other schools in Mombasa. So it can give you a national picture of how the performance of your pupils are like. So basically, that is why we encourage the analysis. So we encourage schools, once you've done Kpsa examinations, always take the initiative and send to us your results so that in the process, we analyze and then give you the results to give you comparison on how that is done. Now, alongside the analysis that we give, we also highlight specific topics that were not well done per class. That is, in class 6, we look at English, then we highlight a few topics that, especially the topics that were not well done by most students, because we have a system where we get feedback from all the schools that do Kpsa examinations. So out of the feedback, we are always informed which topics were well covered, which ones were not well covered. And that is what informs even our training of today. Because if we discover that there are some topics that are giving many pupils a challenge, as Kpsa, we take the initiative now not to leave it at exam level, but now to induct or bring the teachers together so that we bring our brains together as teachers and as masters in our subject area. Then we look at what can we do so that in the subsequent examinations, we can see a positive improvement. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the basis even for this particular kind of training. Now, as I wind up to usher in the first presenter, I need also to note that Kpsa examinations, we don't have, our exams, you can't find them along the shelves like it happens for many other exam sellers around. As we deal with strictly on orders, you order and we supply. So that means we normally send messages for schools to send their orders. So make sure that your orders reach us before the deadline, because as we send messages for the examinations, we always set a deadline. Like right now, what is ongoing is the booking for midterm examinations, and the deadline is this Friday for this week. So if any school is interested in sitting for Kpsa examinations, make sure you send to us your orders to reach us before Friday. So you send orders and you follow up with payments. Now, the difference between us and other exam bodies will sell you examinations, and that is the end of the story. They'll also tell you, our second series is out, send us your order and payment. They supply you the second series, and that is the end of it. They again tell you, our third series of examinations is out on this date, send your orders. But as now we are taking the initiative, in addition to supplying you with the examinations in good time, we are taking the task of analyzing the same results for you, and then also identifying areas that were not well done, and then gathering teachers again in a meeting like the one we are in today. So this is something that is not stopping with this particular exam, but is a practice that now going forward, we will be having similar trainings. After every Kpsa examinations, we'll have a training to look at the previous examinations, so that as we get along, as it is obvious and it's always known that private schools always perform better in KCP examinations. We don't want this to go down. We want even more schools to perform much better, so that the government should be benchmarking, should be coming to Kenya private schools to benchmark with private schools what private schools are doing. So actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason for which we are here for this particular training. Now, allow me to welcome the first presenter of the day. Mr. Ashford is going to introduce himself and maybe tell us more about himself, and then the issues that he's going to tell us for the day. Otherwise, thank you very much and welcome for this meeting. Karibuni sana.
Okay, thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, George. I hope I'm audible now. All right. We are sorting out a small. That's okay now. Thank you very much, George, for that introduction. I'm going to start right away with I'm going to start right away. Sorry for that. It happens with technology. My name is on the slide. I teach English. I have prepared KCP candidates for the last 15 years. KCP candidate for English and composition for the last 15 years. And I also run a company called Examinations Hub, where we evaluate, we look at many exams with a view to advising schools on the best exam to take. And like George has rightfully said, the process of examination should not just start when a school books and pays. If we do that, we will be making it commercial. What Kpsa is doing is that apart from selling you the exams, they are walking the journey of performance with you. And that's why we have this session. Just a minute. That's why we have this session of the training, so that we are able to move our schools. Thank you. Thank you. I think now you can see me. You can see me. That's why I was saying we are doing this process together of not just giving you the exams, but also the equipping and the feedback session like the one we have today. And I want to start my session with a quote that feedback is the breakfast for champions. I'm sure some of us have come across this quote. Feedback is the breakfast for champions. These short analogy here underpins the importance of breakfast. If you take breakfast in the morning, and for that matter, you take a heavy breakfast in the morning, you can have a very good day, because you may skip lunch and you may skip the others. In other words, breakfast is very, very important. So is feedback. If you do an exam and you don't take feedback from that exam, you will not know the areas that you need to improve. Like the ranking that we've been shown there, you realize, for example, if I pick standard 8 English, which was very well done, the highest school earned 94.87. There was another school that earned 92. That is a mean of both the language and the composition. The highest school earned 94.87, which is a very high performance, and the next school earned 92.14. If you are a teacher of English somewhere listening to this session, you are wondering what is it they are doing and you are not doing if you are not yet there. That is why we are this session, so that we can also benchmark amongst ourselves and do what we call best practices. Class 7, the highest school and a mean of 73.98. And because the ranking is done in a very professional way, we are not able to know which school performed like that. But we can ask ourselves questions. Which is this school? What is it they are doing? And when we do that, we are inviting ourselves for a benchmarking, a reflection, so that we can ask ourselves whether that is what we want or we can do better. There is another exam coming, the midterm exam, and you do the exam, you do the analysis, you find your score is not changing. Again, you will reflect, you will ask yourself questions, and you will want to know, what is it that I am not doing? We are doing all this because we are preparing these learners for one common exam, which is KCPE. And you know, when the results for KCPE are announced, names are read, schools are read, and you would want your school or your child to be among the ones who will be read. So it is important that we don't just do the exam, but we are also able to do the feedback session. In our session yesterday, mathematics, Teacher Polycarp talked about the performance cycle. For us to attain the performance level that we want, we must painfully go through the 5 phases. And I will take a short time to explain about them, because I believe it is important we understand this, so that as we prepare ourselves for the next score or the next exam, we may ask ourselves which of the phases that we are not doing well. I want to talk about the teaching phase. I want to talk about the teaching phase and say a few things. I know by now we all know that the syllabus for English is spiral. That means what is taught in the lowest grade keeps piling up like that, and it forms a spiral, something like that. So we should not ignore the syllabus for the lower classes. Secondly, we should effectively cover the syllabus. That is our guiding tool. Every time you fail, you go back to the syllabus and ask yourself, did I cover this topic? Did I cover the other one? When we do an analysis, sometimes it reveals the topics that we may want to do correction. And you know the way the syllabus is, there are some topics that maybe naturally pose a challenge when we are teaching. So those are the areas we need to go back on and always write them down so that we can tell ourselves, this is the topic that we have a problem. Then the learning that we do, the teaching that we do must be specific, objective-based. We need to read the syllabus book and internalize the specific objectives for teaching English. What are they? What are we expecting to deliver at the end of the lesson? That is very important. Then as we prepare the candidate class, we need to focus on the grammar, comprehension, and composition. And like you are going to notice in our discussion, most of the most failed questions come from comprehension and the composition. That's where we are ailing. If you focus on the last two, comprehension and composition, then you are going to have a very good performance in the English language. And for this phase of teaching, the teacher is in charge 100%. We cannot give reasons for not teaching because that is why we are there. And we must teach using the specific objectives and cover the syllabus so that when the exam comes, the student will not fail because they were not taught or they did not cover this and this. Our learners, our students can only learn what we have taught them. If we have not taught, they cannot learn. So we have to teach them so that they can learn. The next phase of the performance cycle is the learning phase. When we teach during the day, we give some time, we give learners some time so that they can also internalize, review, and revise what we have taught them. As teachers, we can give them guidance and we can tell them these are the best study habits. That is our role there to guide them because we have done the teaching and I am aware that we have got very excellent teachers. They do their part very well. But you see, when you have a cycle, it cannot be complete if a member of the cycle is not doing their part. And because the learners expect guidance from us, we are the ones to come up with the best study skills. How can they study? For example, you've been teaching them prepositions, they have notes, they have copied them down, and you have gone home. They are left in school if they are boarders. How can they learn what you taught them? Learning process is internal. It happens in the mind of the learner. When you are teaching in class, it could have been a mechanical process because you are just saying this is a preposition and you are writing it on the board. But if we do not teach our learners to study, however good we are as teachers, we will always produce poor results. So I am challenging teachers to ensure that they have taught their learners. We train them best understand skills so that they can utilize that. So we are done with the teaching and the learning. If you look at those two processes, you realize those two processes are input like. It is like we are inputting something so that we expect an output from that input. If we do a very poor job in inputting knowledge, it means the outcome, the output is also going to be very poor. They normally say garbage in, garbage out. So we are supposed to be very, very keen with the way we do our teaching and the way we have trained our students to learn. There are very many students who end up failing, not because we are not taught, but we failed to train them how to learn on their own. And they have to do that, and we must train them to do that. So the learned phase is what we call the evaluation phase. And that is where Kpsa is coming in to partner with you so that we are doing good teaching. Our learners are learning, and I'm sure by now we are aware of the CBC that it focuses on the learning and not the teaching. If we help them to learn, then we have taught, we have covered the syllabus, they have learned, everybody has done their part. Now we start now assessing the output. The output phases are three: the evaluation, and we are calling upon people who are listening to us and the others to join hands with Kpsa as we do the evaluation. That's why we are here, so that we can talk about the evaluation that we are doing. Evaluation is trying to assess the level of learning that has taken place. Remember, we talked of the teacher teaching and the learner learning. These two people are assessed together, do the evaluation. And the kind of assessment, CBC assessments, and standard 6 to 8 exams that are being presented by Kpsa are putting that into consideration. So that if you have not taught a student and you are evaluating that student, you are just being cruel. Because first we teach, we tell them that what I have taught you, you have to learn it this way. Then you come and they do the evaluation. And partly the reason why we are here is because we are looking at the evaluation scores coming from different schools, and what we are asking ourselves, why did school A perform better than school B? That is evaluation, and we are getting, after we do the evaluation, and George is saying the exams were done towards the end of last term, the next level, and most schools fail to do the last two phases. After the evaluation, we have got what we call the, I want to go back. We have got what we call the analysis. Evaluation. I said the next step is analysis. We asked you to submit your just sorry, we were sorting out something here. I was saying that the done phase is the analysis. Every time an exam is done, whether Kpsa or not, please sit down and carry out a thorough analysis. You are aware that the Kenya National Examinations Council releases a KCPE report. I am sure by now you have gotten the one for 2020, where they highlight the challenges that the entire examination process experienced. When you do the analysis, the last part is the part of feedback. And we are here to give feedback. And I started with an analogy or the feedback of the ability. If you are not going to get feedback, you may not know the changes or the adjustments that you need to make. We also asked you, the schools that took the exam, to give us feedback on what you thought on the quality of the exam, the delivery of the exam, and many other things. So feedback, like I said in the other slide, is the food for champions. So having done that introduction, and I talked about the cycle of performance, I want now to go straight to the today's business, and we start with the broken passage. Yeah, we are back, we are back, we are back. Okay, my technical guy here was sorting me. And now I want us to talk about the broken passage. The broken passage. And I want the teachers to be very keen on this. The KCP broken passage is thematic. The KCP broken passage is thematic. If you do a down memory lane and you scrutinize the broken passages from the year 1985 to the year 2020, you will find that the broken passage comes from specific themes. These are the themes, there are 6. Theme number 1 is what we call small animals. If you have your KCP for 2020, you can confirm that the passage talked about a small animal called leech, the leech that are found on swampy places. Again, if you go scrutinizing the other years, you will find there was another time they talked about small animals like ants, insects, like that. They basically base their themes on that. Then the other area they test, and you have your broken passages, you can always confirm, is the area of technology. If you check one of the years, they were testing about computers. The other year, they tested about mobile phones, and all that is technology. The third theme that you expect the broken passage to come from is games and sports. Games and sports. The fourth, or rather the fifth, is social values. Social values. Morals, etc., etc. Then the last area or theme where KCP broken passage comes from is school life. Why am I saying this? Why is this important? If you are doing any reading in school, if it is storybooks, or if it is any type of reading, emphasize or lay emphasis on these themes, because at the end of the day, the broken passage theme or the broken passage is taken from them. So I think that point is home, that when we are reading any literature that it talks about small animals, technology, games, sports, social values or morality, and life in school, then we need to be very keen. We look at the grammar in that literature, look at the language pattern, we look at the sentence structures, etc., etc. The second thing that you need to know about the KCP broken passage is that it comes in the following tenses, and you can confirm from the years that you have. The first one is the simple present tense. Then we have the present continuous tense. Then we have the present perfect tense. That is very important. Whenever your learners are doing a broken passage, ask them to identify the theme. They read it through and then write it somewhere there that this passage is on the theme of games and sports. They can write somewhere there on the side, and also train them to identify the tense. Identify the tense, because there are some blank spaces that will be easier for them to answer when they have identified the tense. So ensure that even when you are teaching the tenses, at least these three: the simple present, the occasions when it is used, the present continuous, how we use it, and how to construct sentences with this tense, and then the present perfect tense. If you study all the broken passages for KCPE, you will begin to get a pattern or the trend of that. Then finally, the KCPE broken passage tests the following. One, and it is appearing in red, is the parts of speech. By now we know that, and you know that the part of speech, they start from grade 1. They start from grade 1, you teach them, and you make sure they have internalized and they have understood all the part of speech. It is very important. I am going to show you how to identify the part of speech tested in a broken passage. For example, you can say question number 1, was it testing the knowledge of abstract nouns, or in general, the nouns, then you narrow down to abstract nouns, like that. And I'll also be showing you how Kpsa exams, especially the standard 6, 7, and 8 English papers, were paying attention to the things that I am discussing with you. Then, apart from the part of speech, the broken passage tests vocabulary. There are some blank spaces that are just there to test the mastery, the depth of the learner's vocabulary. And one of the easiest ways of teaching vocabulary is through reading. You ensure that your learners are reading. I went to a school and I was very impressed, because that school and a book of the month. They set aside a storybook and they say that is the book for that month. And I have seen very many creative strategies by teachers of English meant to address vocabulary in their schools, and also the spellings. The next aspect that is tested in the broken passage is the spellings. You may look at some spaces, and I'll be showing you the comparison between last year's KCPE and the Kpsa and term 1 English in the 3 classes that we are talking about. How did we test the spellings? So that even when we teach, we are able to take our learners through the rules for spellings. Another thing that is tested in the broken passage is the sentence structures. Sentence structures, how they are varied like that. You might find where they have placed a blank space, they are testing the mastery and the knowledge of the learner of the sentence structures. Then expressions, that one is also tested. Punctuations. Another time I went to another school and I found that in the area of punctuations, I think we are victims as teachers of English, because even in the compositions that my colleague will be talking about later on in this session, most learners in the composition are only able to use 3 punctuation marks. Out of the 14 punctuation marks that are there in English, you will find some majority of our schools, our learners only know how to use a full stop, that is natural, then a comma, and then a question mark. When we read the compositions at the national level, we find in the area of punctuations, our teachers have not done sufficient to ensure that our students have mastered the 14 punctuation marks. And the only way NEC is able to test that and give us a favorable feedback is when our students write their essays. Do we find anywhere they have used, for example, a full colon? Do we find anywhere, for example, they have used ellipses? Have they used parentheses? Have they used the other punctuation marks? No. Mostly, you find they use a full stop, a comma, and a question mark. And you see punctuation marks have a role they play in communication. Effective communication is one that has adequate, and I normally tell my candidates, the minimum I expect, the bare minimum is at least 7. So you can ask yourself, even if for nothing else from this training, how many punctuation marks did my learners use in the last composition? If you find yourself at 7, you are doing very well as a teacher. And finally, we also test meanings in the broken passage. So basically that is it. I wanted us to understand this so that every time you are doing an exam, you can help the setters by interrogating and asking yourselves whether that exam meets these expectations. And this should be the bare minimum because these are the NEC expectations, and that is what we should model in our cards, in our exams, and everything. And I can say without a doubt, Kpsa exams, and I am going to show you that, meet these expectations. Moving on, I can see some people are raising up their hands. I don't know whether it's because they have a challenge. My technical team is going to sort that. Earlier on, I noticed Lindia Biwot was complaining of a sound. India, if that is okay, you can chat me up. We do not want any student in class to be inconvenienced in one way or the other. I want to move to the next slide. This is, if you look at the English papers, the ACP on one side, then if you're teaching standard 6, you put the Kpsa standard 6 paper on the other side, and we are doing an analysis, a comparative analysis of what happened. In the year 2020, and I'm sure we have those papers at home, KCP question 1, broken passage, they were testing prepositions. I am not sure, but I can almost say without doubt, there is no year that NEC fails to test prepositions. That is parts of speech. If you look at this slide, the areas I've highlighted, they all fall under parts of speech. Preposition is one of them. So we are encouraging our teachers and schools that are taking our exams to ensure every time they have a table of specification. Whenever an exam is being set, there is a very important tool called table of specification. This table of specification, and it is available in the NEC newsletter, even if you buy the latest, shows the distribution of cognitive skills as tested in an exam. If you do not do a table of specification, you are going to end up with an examination or a broken passage with the blank spaces testing prepositions. And you can see from the screen, preposition is not repeated. Why is it not repeated? Because there was a plan. There was a deliberate plan to distribute the scales so that we have preposition and something else. If you look at Kpsa Standard 6 English, for example, question 1, and you have the papers at home, you can confirm. We were testing verbs. Verbs fall under part of speech. So if you find, when you do a post-exam analysis, and you find that your learners in Standard 6 did not score that question, it means as a teacher, you can go and reteach, or you can ask the learners to relearn that concept. Maybe you did not teach it sufficiently. If you look at Standard 7, for example, question 1, we were testing intensifiers. And if you look at Standard 8, and I just realized the Standard 8 paper was done well than the others, we were testing tenses. Look at that tense that was tested there. Which tense was it? What is the knowledge of your students on the tenses? So that you go back, look at it, evaluate, and ask yourself. Then number 2, KCP 2020, we tested, NEC tested the phrasal verbs. And you can see, just before we go to phrasal verbs, you can see preposition appearing in Standard 6, question number 10. I don't know, in the next slide, class 7, preposition appeared in question number 12. I hope we are following, teachers. And in Standard 8, just like NEC tested prepositions, Kpsa tested prepositions in question number 13. So we can comfortably say without a doubt that Kpsa, Standard 6, Standard 7, and Standard 8 English papers are a true replica of what the NEC expects. I don't think we have time to look at all the questions from number 1 to number 15, but in a nutshell, what I'm saying is there must be a table of specification. There must be a table that shows the distribution of questions and the way the cognitive skills were tested in an exam. That is very important. You cannot just take any collection of questions and call it an exam. An exam is called an exam because before it was set, there was a table of specification that distributed the cognitive skills. And the next point now was to develop items to test those skills. And I am afraid some of the exams that we buy are simply a collection of questions. Take any other exam that you have done, because we do many, and do an analysis like this, and you see the report that you're going to generate from that. So that is important. The second slide there is a follow-up of the broken passage. The things that are tested, you can see NEC question number 11 was a vocabulary question, number 12 the same, number 13 and 14, they were testing conjunctions, etc., etc. And I am inviting you, now that you have this information, to make a judgment of the exams that you have, Kpsa included, using the yardstick given by NEC. Now we want to move to the grammar part. After the broken passage, the next question, the next section in the English paper is the grammar part. But before I go to grammar part, the KCPE newsletter for 2020 candidates has returned a verdict on the broken passage. I want to run to that slide. Here it is. Those who are privy to the 2020 KCPE newsletter can bear me witness that there were only 4 most failed questions. There were only 4 most failed questions. Question number 6, and you know by now, question number 6 can only be the broken passage. I am inviting you where we are, and I know teachers are very diligent. Go and look at that question number 16 and see the part of speech it is tested. Knowing that it was broken passage alone is not enough. If you want to be an effective teacher, go and see the specific area that question tested from the areas I ran you through. Then, and I will be saying this a lot, our students fail a lot in the second passage, the factual passage. They fail in the body passages, but the greatest failure comes from the factual passage. You can see from NEC, which is a very authoritative source, that question number 40, question number 44, question number 45, all of them falling in the factual passage were failed mostly in last year's KCPE. So I want to continue with the grammar and say that if you analyze the KCPE paper for 2020 grammar number 16 to 25, you will realize that this is the way the questions were. Number 16 was testing a word that means the same as. The word that means the same as worthy. Again, if you read the newsletter, you realize there was a bit of a struggle there. There was a distractor in that question, and most students fell to the trap of NEC in that question. Then number 17 was also testing a word that means the same as, orderly. And in the same question, I am just hoping that we carry those papers. I should have asked you to come with them so that we are able to practically do this. If you look at number 17, there is a distractor there. And our students mostly fall to those distractors. That's why I talked of good standing habits. They go to the one that they are commonly used to, and then they end up failing like that. You can see it was also testing the one respect. The one respect as used in a sentence structure. And that question again returned a not so favorable verdict on the way we teach the mastery of vocabulary and the etc., etc. Then preposition. The preposition for protest is against. The preposition for thankful is for. And for some time now, NEC has been testing the preposition for congratulate, which most students think is for. So those are some of the things they want to correct when they set this. And as we teach grammar, we are supposed to be very careful. And one of the ways we could become better teachers is by reading the NEC report, internalizing it, so that we are able to preempt the traps that they lay for our learners. If you look at our Kpsa paper, that is a standard 6 grammar, Kpsa tested the following cognitive skills. And when I looked at it and I compared with the NEC, I was satisfied that Kpsa is walking in the right path. And if we continue partnering like this for a while now, within the 2 terms, you should be able to see change in the performance of the English language. Number 16 tested correlatives. Number 16 tested correlatives. And there is a new way NEC is doing this testing of correlatives. I'm going to give an example. There are 22 correlatives. And I know we have chat in school and we have asked our learners to cram. And when we ask our learners to cram, they fail to learn. Remember, I talked of the second phase of performance cycle. We go to school, we make a chart and we write all of them there and we tell them two, like that. There is a question. One was in KCP, the other one was in the internal exams. That was reading like this. Jacob was so happy, dash. Jacob was so happy, dash. Jacob was so happy, dash. Found his watch. Teacher Raphael can put that on the chat. Jacob was so dash found his watch. When the students see the word so, even they don't read the remaining part of the sentence. They know because we have taught them, so is a correlative for that. So the student ended up writing, Jacob was so happy that he found his watch. And they did not score that. Yet you can see there is a bit of correlative being tested in that sentence. But you see a student who has crammed will end up reasoning with the crammed information. That is 2 goes with the 2, like that. And the answer for that question was because. Jacob was so happy because he found his watch. So when we teach correlatives, we also need to ask ourselves, in what other ways can they be tested? And then they will catch our learners off guard. Then number 17 for class 6 was our possessive pronouns. Number 18 was our sentence structures. 18, like that, the passive voice. And number 21 was a very good question because when we are teaching them rules for changing active voice to the passive voice, we almost always forget to teach our learners how to change a sentence that has a question starting with the who in the active voice. For example, who broke the jug? Who broke the jug? When I look at the analysis that you sent us, I could tell, because that is the feedback now we are talking about, that we have not done sufficient work in teaching that active and passive voice. And what the Kenya National Examination Council does, it is scout for fertile areas. Every time you are teaching a topic, there is always that difficult part of that question. And that's where NEC excels. In our assessment, when we teach, we are happy that we have taught the active and the passive voice. Then we have brought a question that draws our learners off guard because we are teaching focused in one area. We are not looking at the other ways. And because KCP has been there for over 35 years, those people are devising new ways of testing the same concept. The concept and the syllabus are not changing, but the way they are testing, sometimes you can see a question and it can make you sweat. So question number 21 in class 6 was among the most failed. And like George was saying, when I look at the statistics, you can see standard 6 English was the one that was performed the least when you compare the 3. and the curve should be the other way around. Then in number 22 and 23, the odd one out, or the one that least fits in the group. That one will always come. There is no pattern of teaching that. I don't know how teachers do it in their schools, but because we have a chat channel there, you can be throwing in your points and we can be sharpening each other. Then the next one is how the Kpsa standard 7 grammar fared. The number 16, number 17, number 18 are testing phrasal verbs. Number 16, the phrasal verb was grow into. There should be a problem there with the spelling. Then number 17 was work out. Number 18 was set upon. And like you were able to see in the next slide, phrasal verbs is an area that is tested, and we need to help our learners master that. Then, like I was saying in question in class 6 active voice, question 19, question tags for commands and requests. Question tags for commands and requests is an area that we should be very keen when we are teaching. When learners are brought a command or a request, we need to, because when we give the general rules for question tags, we almost always forget how to treat a command or a request. Something else about question tags, and this happened once with the neck. There is a here, if you look at the syllabus, it talks of questions and answer tags. Questions and answer tags. But the part of the answer tags is not adequately covered. One of the years, the learners were brought an answer tag, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle in that. So as we teach question tags, go the full length and write the topic as questions and the answer tags. All the question tags have answer tags. All the question tags, even a command as an answer tag. The symbols for commands and requests is plus, plus, plus. Shut the door. Shut the door. Will you? Will you? Shut the door is positive. Will you is positive. And the answer tag is going to be yes with the capital Y, comma, I will. So if you look at that, it is a question tag that has plus, plus, plus. When we teach in class, and that's why I said, if we train our learners to cram, we are not making them to, we are not facilitating them to study. Because we tell them positive statements will have negative answer tags, and that is what sticks in them. So we also need to go an extra mile and talk about how to treat the questions and the answer tags, especially if they are coming from request and the commands. The next area of our question tags that I find very fascinating is the modals. Whenever a statement comes and it happens to have a modal auxiliary verb, there are 11 modal auxiliary verbs. There are 11 modal auxiliary verbs. Any of them can be in a question. And you are expected to form a question tag from that. So we also, as we teach modal auxiliary verbs, we teach their past forms. We tell them will becomes would, shall becomes should, may becomes might, must Must. The modal auxiliary verb must. I would be interested to know this. Becomes what? Must becomes what? Put it in the chat. I am going to acknowledge you. Must becomes what in the, because it also changes. Put it up in the chat. Then another area for fertile ground for testing question tags. That's why I'm saying I am satisfied with this class 7 paper is on the area of question tags formed from let us and let's. Let us and let's. In one case, one becomes a request, the other one becomes an imperative. How do they form their question tags? We dwell on that area when we are teaching. We dwell on that. The purpose of this session is to give you feedback so that using it, we can get better results. And if a school needs help, you can reach out through Kpsa and we can do that. Then another interesting part, which is well covered in the 3 papers I'm talking about today, is the area of paragraphing. Rewrite the following sentences, making a sensible paragraph. Rewrite the following sentences to make a sensible paragraph. When we are teaching paragraphing here, we should spend a lot of time because it is the same paragraphing skills that we will expect the learners to use when they are writing their compositions. So it's a very important skill, very important. A paragraph has 3 types of sentences. We have told our learners that a paragraph has 3 types of sentences. The first sentence is the topic sentence. Then we have several supporting sentences, and we have the sentence that settles an argument in a paragraph. We call it the clincher. So here, we are actually killing 3 birds with 1 stone. The bird of grammar, because in question 23, 24, 25, you find paragraphing where sentences are given in Roman numbers and your work is to order them. The second band is the band of writing. When we write compositions, my colleague will talk about this. One of the hallmarks of a fancy composition, is good paragraphing. So that's the second band. And the third band, very important, is the band of reading the comprehension, the passages. Remember, I've already said the verdict we have from NEC is that we are not doing very well in the comprehension. That's why our whole 4 questions were done poorly in the factual passage. So if you look at the passages that come, they are built the same way with a topic sentence, with supporting sentences like that, like that, like that. Sometimes when the question is asked, we are normally misled to get the answer from the supporting sentence as opposed to from the topic sentence. Then the last bit of standard 6 was the punctuation. And here I could tell the examiner dwelt on the external punctuation marks. External punctuation marks. There are 4 of them. External. The others are internal. Remember, I said there are 14, but we can cluster them into 2. We have the punctuation marks that are used internally. We call them the internal. And then we have the external punctuation marks. That was being tested there, where we have a full stop. We have an exclamation mark. And we have the question mark. External. After them, that is the end of that. Standard is 8. I will take a bit of time here because we are preparing our learners for KCPE. We have 3 questions, testing the odd one out. 3 of them were testing the odd one out. And in question number 16, the one that least fitted, because we are testing values, all the others were values apart from one. Very many people were able to identify that. And just a hint on how to answer on one out or the list that fits. You can go the part of each way. Sometimes you may realize the ones given are verbs. Like in the case of number 18, they have given regular verbs. Then one is not irregular, it is irregular like that. The other way is to ask the theme, what are they talking about, like that. The other way is the one deformation, maybe they are testing all the ones are verb and verbs, and one is an adjective, like that. But there's no formula of teaching that. That it tests a high order of listening. Then vocabulary was tested, number 19. Vocabulary was also tested in number 20. Then number 21 was it testing correlatives, and number 22. And I have said, I am advising you teachers, be very keen with the correlatives. The Kenya National Examination Council is aware that students know prefer or is a statement. Sorry, prefer or is a question. Well, prefer is used in it. I have come across a question that was using or. It was not a question. It was not a question. So let us research, let us labor finding out other ways that can be tested. And when I don't think there is a big problem there, and then question tags, I talked about them, and we're dwelling on the modal auxiliary verb might. So we can check that. Then again, as I said with class 7, you can see the issue of let us and let's also is tested there. And the last question was prepositions. In the KCPE 2020, I said this, there were 4 most failed. It does not mean the others were not failed, but these ones were very alarming. That means when the NEC is giving us a feedback, it is telling us nationally what is on the ground. And I can report without a doubt now that in the area of broken passage, if we are going to fail in English, it is going to be because of the broken passage. And I want to say this at this point. Question 1 to question 15. Question 1, not to 15. Question 1 to question 25. That part is marked out of 15. Then 25 to 50 is marked out of 45. So as we teach, we lay emphasis on the passages. Here we are told 4 questions, all of which came from the factual passage. That is the second passage, which usually has 12 questions. We have a problem there of reading, and it is because our students are not reading storybooks. They have not mastered the comprehension skills. We have 4 skills in English, and I know we are aware of that. We have the listening, we have the speaking, we have the reading, and we have the writing. But I always say there is a 5th skill called comprehension. To comprehend is to understand. If you look at the questions in the other subjects, the student mostly fail because of comprehension. I look at the mathematics, and there's a passage they are given. The question is in the form of a passage. They are reading the question, but they fail to comprehend. Because they are not able to comprehend, that is how they end up failing. So as we help our students in English in comprehension, we are helping the whole school. We are helping the whole school. Mostly, and I'm inviting you to go and look at this, the most failed questions in comprehension are the questions that have to do with the following cognitive skills: evaluation, analysis, application, and synthesis. If you remember the Bloom's taxonomy, the way questions are ordered, those ones are high order thinking skills. In the passage that they did in March this year, there was a story of a dog called Duke, and the owner of the dog called Mutuko. And the last question I remember very well, the student, after reading the passage, there is a point where Mutuko is hugging the dog, and out of excitement, the dog wags its tail. Maybe for you to get the bigger picture, because of the class 6 teachers who are here, Mutuko's dog is called Duke, and it had bad manners. It was stealing people's items, and Mutuko's father and mother wanted to chase the dog away, but they decided to give it a second chance by taking it to school so that it can be trained. So Mutuko was very happy that his dog was not going to be sent away after long. So during the holidays, Mutuko accompanied his dog to the training school for a week. So he went on Monday, the dog was trained on Tuesday, all the way up to Saturday. I think this is the day the dog was meant to graduate. So because it had successfully finished the training, the master, in this case, Mr. Mutuko, hugged his dog. And out of excitement, the dog wagged its tail, maybe to reciprocate the hugging. And the question came, why did the dog wag its tail? Why did the dog wag its tail? And I keep telling teachers, neck is very cunning. The first choice was because it had successfully completed the training. And the majority of our students fell for that trap because they did not engage evaluation skills, analysis, and application. They thought the dog knew it had completed the course, and that was not the case. So if you read the other choices, you will see there are answers that are straightforward. They are not requiring thinking. But I have told you, the easy questions in comprehension are attesting the higher order of thinking. Standard 6, Kpsa. This was NEC, there were only 4. And now this is Kpsa, our standard 6. From the statistics you sent us and the analysis that was done, it was discovered that the schools that did the Kpsa exams would want to revisit the following areas. And I remember I have already talked about the broken passage in class 6. The broken passage, question number 1, verbs, we need to revisit that before the next exam. You were told yesterday by the other facilitators about the follow-up questions and the alternative questions. Let us go back and reteach that. Even if we have covered it in the syllabus, the feedback we have is that our learners have not mastered that. It is not going to be asking for too much if we ask you to go and reteach that. Question number 3, the broken passage. I have talked about the modal auxiliary verbs. They are 11. It is very easy to master. As you teach them that again, you are also teaching them how to deal with their short forms in the case they are doing questions and answer tags. The short form of shall, we have to use the modal auxiliary verb shall with the first person singular and the plural. Even the dictionary underlines that. So we go back there and teach the nitty-gritties. Those small things, those petty things we ignore. The examiner finds them fertile for testing. Then standard 6, question number 21, grammar, I already alluded to this. Passive voice, passive voice. Most of the exams I see, they will always be asking you to change from the active voice to the passive voice. Kindly teachers, let us reteach that concept. Then the other parts are the passages. You can see, you can now begin to understand why the performance of English standard 6 was the least, because you can see in the narratives, the narrative passage, we had 4 questions, actually 5. And when we interrogate those questions, you can see we have found out that those questions are coming from the I, under thinking scales. Application, when we read a question from the passages, let us take our learners through the thought process. Sometimes they are misled. They are trapped by small things. So we look at the application questions, the evaluation questions, and the sentences questions. The knowledge questions, where they are just they are recording what was the name of Motuko's dog. They will get that. But where they are supposed to put 1 + 1 + 1 like that, that is where they are finding it challenging. And I have said that as teachers of English, we can improve the old school, because basically, even if you are reading a science question, it is normally a paragraph they are reading. Then from it, they interpret. So when they lack this basic, in fact, I call them the 21st century skills, comprehension skills, and they are based on application, evaluation, sentences. Go and dwell on those 4. You will begin to see a change in your performance. Then in the factual passage, there were 3 questions that were mostly failed, and that is what the analysis and the scores you sent to us captured. In short, like we said, this is feedback. We will decide what we want to do with it. If you take it the right way, your score in the next exam will be better than this. And that is our prayer as a Kpsa. Standard 7, I told you, broken passage has no pattern of teaching. I think that's why teachers are not able to come up with ways of helping students to cram, because this one is testing mastery. And you can see question number 5, compound noun, passerby, compound noun, passerby. When you are teaching compound nouns, you teach the ones that are hyphenated and the ones that are not hyphenated. While you are there, please teach them, because NEC tests this, even in high school, the plurals of hyphenated compound nouns. Like the one, the passerby, is a hyphenated, is an hyphenated compound noun. Commander-in-chief is hyphenated compound noun. When we are teaching them, the rule is for the plurals of hyphenated compound nouns, and teachers can write this, plurals of hyphenated compound nouns happen on the first word. Like in the case of passerby, we'll talk of passers-by. Commanders-in-chief, that is the rule, the general rule. When you are there under compound, hyphenated and non-hyphenated compound nouns, teach them the possessives. How does a hyphenated compound noun possess? Is it commanders-in-chief car or commander-in-chief's car? The rule is the possession happens on the last noun. But there is a rider. One here, they tested Attorney General. And if you have a dictionary, you can check that, because that word has plurals on both ones. It can be Attorney Generals or it can be Attorneys General. So those are the areas now the examiner dwells on. Then question number 9, also broken passage. I talked about conjunctions, especially the conjunctive and the verbs. Ask your learners to extract all the questions testing conjunctions in KCPE. You will be surprised. Then under the passages again, like I said, you can see, apart from question 38 and 46, the others were actually testing the application. Then for class 8, here I can dwell a bit, because this is our candidate class. But I'm pleasantly surprised, because I have seen a school here with a mean of 94.87. That teacher deserves accommodation. I will talk to George so that we will start acknowledging teachers with a Kpsa certificates. It shows a lot of good work has been done by that teacher. Well done. We don't know the school and we don't know the teacher, but you know yourself if you are in the meeting and you are doing a very good job. 94.87 is a very impressive performance. Having said that, like I said in the previous slides, you notice the broken passage is again appearing there, and this is under the parts of speech. Parts of speech, verbs. So if we can, and I believe we can, let us revisit the part of speech. And one of the ways of teaching this aspect of the broken passage is through reading. For example, newspapers, you can underline, you can give them an article to read, and the underlining, and you ask them to underline everywhere a verb is appearing, an adverb is appearing, like that, so that they know the patterns and the sentence structures. Then number 18 was testing the odd one out. I don't have that specific question, but remember I said that is an area that it seems to pose a challenge, especially if the learner did not understand. Was it testing verbs and one was noun, or what was happening there? When they get that line of thought, it is easier to get the answer. Then number 36. Number 36 is a narrative passage. That is, I have talked about the passages and the questions, and you can see, like it was confirmed in the other ones, right from the one by neck, our learners are not able to take the information they have learned and apply it in another situation. And that is what we call learning. There are students who are getting things because of recalling. That is cramming, and it is short-lived. But if a student can get this information and apply it in another situation, that student is doing a lot of application, and that is where CBC is going. I think I have come to the end of my session. I am going to take questions before I invite the next speaker, or we could do the next speaker, then we can answer questions at the tail edge together. But before I do that, I want to remind you the information on the slide. We are currently taking bookings for the CBC, midterm assessments, and the standard 6 to 8 exams. You can see we have a very strict deadline. And at the beginning, you are told about over 900 schools that missed the exams because Kpsa only prints exams for the honors they have received. If you are in this meeting and you have not done a Kpsa exam, you can try our midterm exam. You can try. Make sure in a term you have done one of the Kpsa exams. We are not asking you to do all of them. You can do our midterm and you do opening and end term from another source. And we are going to meet here and we are going to tell who is giving value for the money. That is what we are doing through the equipping. Thank you. I want to hand over to George. I want to hand over.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashford Gekunda, for the wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. We are happy of the manner in which you've clarified section after section. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll answer the questions after the next presenter has presented, who is going to handle specifically about issues of composition. We will give you, there will be a plenary session where we'll be answering all the questions. In the meantime, there are those who have been asking questions through the Q&A column as well as the chat column. We are taking note of those questions. So during the question and answer session, we'll answer each and every question that has been raised either by the chat column or the Q&A icon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome our next presenter, Mr. Raphael Nganga, who is going to take us through a composition equipping session, everything to do with the composition. So, Mr. Raphael Nganga, karibu for, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. We appreciate. Thank you. Good afternoon, my fellow teachers, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Raphael Nganga, a teacher of English and composition, just like many of you here. Thank you. I hope I'm audible enough, Mr. George. I hope I'm audible enough. I can be heard. Eh? If you guys can hear me, someone can notify me through the chat that you can actually hear me. You can hear me? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ashford. And thank you, teachers, for your patience. I know you've been here since 2 p.m. We don't take it for granted that you have chosen to leave whatever you are doing to listen to us and to listen to the presentation that has just been done by my colleague, Ashford. I hope you are getting something. I hope you are getting equipped so that at the end of the day, the person who benefits most is the learner who God has entrusted to us. I'm going to take you briefly. I know you are tired, but I know you still have some energy to listen. I'll not take long. I'll just take you through the composition marking guide. Just it has been requested by most of you who wanted us to talk a little bit about it. Composition is a very, very important element in KCP English paper. This part, if not well taken care of, if not well handled, can easily mess a student mark or build a student's mark. So as teachers, we are called upon to be very, very careful when we are teaching the learner's composition. And I've just said when we are teaching the learner's composition. Many a times as teachers, we don't teach composition. We want to teach grammar, we want to teach comprehension, but we rarely teach composition. We just go to class and write the rubrics on the board. We tell the learners, write this topic. Wait for them to write. Then you collect the books, do the marking, tell the learners, correct or do corrections. Look at the underlined words. Look at the underlined sentences. We go to class many a times, we tell our learners, we were supposed to be very creative, but we have not guided our learners on ways of being creative. We want them to be very creative in their writings, but we have not taught them, what is this? What is this animal called creativity? What do you want them to write so that they can get the mark they're supposed to get? So my message today for the teachers is make sure at least you are teaching the learners composition. You are teaching the learners composition. Teach them sentence structures, Teach them the themes. There are themes in every class. Go to standard 6 syllabus. There are themes that you are supposed to teach them. Go to standard 6 syllabus, English. There are themes that they are supposed to know. Same with class 8. Ensure you have taught the themes, the vocabularies involved, the sentence structures involved, so that when it comes to writing, the student can remember what you did with them in class. So very fast, I want to take you through the marking guide on how maybe you are supposed to mark your compositions. Basically, the compositions are divided into groups. The dummies, the scripts are supposed to be divided into at least 4 groups. There is group 1 compositions, group 2 compositions, and group 3 compositions. So when you come to our learners in class, we can easily tell who is in group 1, who is in group 2, who is in group 3, and who is in group 4. Every learner in whichever group has specific needs which are supposed to be addressed by the teacher who is training that child how to mark or how to write the composition. At times we don't do this. We want to group all the students together. You cannot meet all their needs. Try to see who is in group what so that every child will be met at their point of need, especially in the writings. So very fast, I want to take you through group 1 compositions. Group 1 compositions. This group 1 compositions, unfortunately, we call this one poor. And they range from Mark 1 up to Mark 10. And it is divided into 3 different groups. There's G1A, G1B, that is group 1B, and G1C. If this child is in group 1A, that is the one we call the poorest, the worst, can only get between 1 and 4 marks. If a child is in group 1B, he or she can only get between 5 and 7 marks. If a child is in group 1C, between 8 and 10. And again, now you also need to know the characteristics of the scripts or the compositions in this group. These kind of learners, they rarely communicate. So we can't make out what the child is trying to say. There is no storyline. There is no sentence that is related to the other. There is no communication. You can't even join the dots to know what this learner is talking about. So the language ability is minimal. The reader has no guess at all of what the writer intended to write. They have a lot of spelling mistakes and fails to construct sensible sentences. The subject is distorted. There is poor punctuation marks, if there is any. No correct sentence. There are lots of errors. And by the way, we call this one stale bread. This one, there is no communication. Some of them in this group tend to use mother tongue. Like the guys in group 1A, most of them rarely use English. They use the vernaculars. There is no single word that is correctly spelled. We can say this one is English. G1, most of the guys, most of the pupils in this group are special children, and rarely will you find that those ones okay in this group. So maybe I can give you a sample of a composition. It's so unfortunate if you have such in class, but again, if you have them, you still need to help. Sample of a composition in this group. I'm sure you can see it from your screen. This is now a composition, a sample composition of a G1. G1 group 1 composition. I'd like you to tell me if you are to rate this composition 1 to 10. Maybe you are going to write in the chat. How many marks can you give this child? Look at the spellings. My father do not like cigarette. Look at the way the word cigarette has been written. Worked up and see my uncle taking cigarette in our table room. He's annoyed a lot. My uncle have come visit. I sit there with his cigarette. My father not tell to go out. My uncle just smoke the table room. He's looking too smashed. Smoke my father start to lose people. Now, this one is not a group 1A. At least we can tell there's some English, only that most of the words are not correctly spelled. So is this learner, I want to ask you, my fellow teachers, is this learner from group 1? Yes. Is it group 1A, group 1B, or group 1C? Maybe you can put it in the chat so that I see whether we are together. This is a group 1. There are not many in our classes, and if they are there, we just need to accept, accommodate them, and help where we can. The other group is group 2. Group 2 compositions. Now, this one you find a lot of learners here. Group 2, this one we call it fair. Remember the other one was poor. Group 2 compositions, these ones are fair, and there are only 2. Group 2D, that is between 11 and 15 marks. Group 2E, if a script comes from group 2E, he or she can only get between 16 and 20 marks. That's group 2E. Now, what are the characteristics for this kind of group? The candidates communicates as opposed to group 1, looks confident in the language. There could be some digression here and there. The story is weak and the flow is jerky. There is some mother tongue influence in most of the communication there. The story is often underdeveloped. Now, remember group 1, we called it stale bread, unfortunately. This one is plain bread, just plain. It is better compared to group 1. Remember this one, we said it is fair. Group 1, we said it is poor. Now, I'll give you the same composition we've read, the same composition for group 1. This is how a group 1 we write. Now, I want us to see how will a group 2 write the same story. Let's see whether there is some improvement. There you go. My father, who does not like smoking, you can note some errors there, was quite unhappy when he walked up and found Uncle smoking our sitting room. My uncle has come to pay us a visit. He had sat on the sofa set and looking very happy as a king. Usually, my dad I would ask visitors to smoke outside the house, but now he found it rather hard to do the same to his brother. Teachers, this is now a sample composition of a group 2. And you can see it is a bit better compared to what we had. This is now group 1. This is how a G1 we write. And for your information, this is a G1C. G1C, at least there is some English that is being written. You can see there are some words. There are some words that are well or properly spelled. Do, not, those are English words. Table. When you go to G2, again, you can see at least most of the words are well spelled. There is an effort in the sentence structure. There is paragraphing, you can see. The first paragraph starts with my father, and the second paragraph starts with usually. So this child is a bit better than the other one. That's why I said you need to identify all your learners in class. Who is in group 1, who is in group 2. Tell them or let them know the characteristics. You as a teacher now come up with ways of helping that G1 you have in class. Help that group 1 to construct sensible sentences. Devise ways of helping with spellings, paragraphing, so that they can move from group 1 and group 2. And personally, in my line of teaching, I have seen pupils who have moved from group 1 to group 2. So teachers, it is very much possible, as long as you start with identifying them and knowing how to help them. This is group 2. Now, what about group 3? Now, group 3, these guys, we call them good, because this is a good group as compared to group 2. And in group 3, there are 3 categories, as you can see on your screen. Group 3F. If a child is in group 3F, and it's good, teachers, that you take this one to the learners. Tell them there's a group 1, group 2, and group 3. And these are the characteristics for group 1. These are the characteristics for group 2. And these are the characteristics for group 3. Sometimes don't even group them. Let them write a composition. Let them read each other's composition and ask them, which group do you think you belong? I'm sure most of them, if they have understood the characteristics, they'll be able to tell me, teacher, for me, I think I'm in group 2. For me, I think I'm in group 3. Group 3 is divided into 3 categories: group 3F, group 3G, and group 3H. The lowest in this group is F. That is 21 to 24. I think for first term and second term, and especially the learners in group, the learners in standard 8, we can even start with those in class 7, because next year they are also doing the KCP. Instead of giving them marks, award them in terms of group. Tell them, you so and so, you are in group 3F. That is between 21 and 24, the lowest of group 3. The second one is G. That's group 3G, 25 to 27. Then the best in this group is between 28 to 30. We call them group 3H. Now, what are the characteristics compared to those in group 2? If you read the characteristics for group 2, the candidates communicate, looks confident in the language. There could be some digression, though not much. The story is weak. That is the story of the issue of storyline. The obvious one, predictable. We can tell what this learner wants to say even before we continue. Mother tongue, a little bit. The story is often undeveloped. That is group 2. Now, group 3, this one, the characteristics are: there is great influence of fluency and ease of expressions. Though in group 2, there was a little bit of confidence. In group 3, now this one we can see the flow has changed. Expressions, command of English has started changing a little bit. You can tell from the sentence structures. How are sentence structures? Are they weak sentence structures or strong? Do they have items of merit? Another characteristic in this group is they demonstrate ability to use English as a normal way of expressions. In fact, this group, I call them ambitious. They are very ambitious, very creative. They want to try. Every now and then, you'll find them with a new item of merit, a new expression. They know how to research. Very ambitious. So the sentences are well constructed. Almost all the sentences. Good use of punctuations and spellings is okay. They are very ambitious, like I've said. Expressions, they use unusual but appropriate vocabularies. And remember, I've just said unusual but appropriate. Sometimes they use unusual but not appropriate. Many are clean and correct. That is the spellings, the words. This one, we'll call it bread and butter. So group 1, we called it stale bread. Group 2, we called it plain bread. Now group 3, we called it bread and butter. If you look at the composition for group 1, this is the composition for group 1. Just to take you back a little bit, I want you to connect the two. This is a storyline, or rather, this is a rubric that was given to the whole class. They wrote the same story, but now the way they wrote is what made the difference. This is a group 1. A group 2, we write the same composition like this. I want you to note the difference. Group 3, whom we have said they are a bit ambitious, they will write like this. It was irritating. You can see the sentence, short structured sentences that do not tire the reader. It was irritating. In that sentence, short, It has some elements of suspense. So the reader, all obvious, want to continue reading. He had always hated smoking. And again, you are like, who is this? Look at the suspense. Group 3. He had always hated smoking. And now he had woken up to a stuffy sitting room. Disgust was written all over my father's face as he met my uncle, who had sat comfortably smoking, as happy as a king. Remember, we said G3 learners are very ambitious. These are the learners who really know how to use expressions. And teachers, as I speak, I'm sure you can easily connect. You have these learners in class. You can identify. This one is a true G3. This one is a G2. G2, they are a bit struggling. Once they go to G3 now, they write something like this. They like using expressions. Look at the paragraphing, almost very good. Look at the items of merit. There's a simile there, as happy as a king. Look at the suspense. If you are the reader, of course, you want to continue reading this composition. You want to know, where is it heading to? You want to know, what is this story about? My uncle, look at the use of punctuation. My uncle, there's a post there. My uncle, whose teeth and fingers spoke eloquently of his smoking, had lit up right in the room, and his aggressive fumes of smoke would have put a chimney to shame. Look at the vivid description. The learner in group 3, they try very much to paint a picture in our mind. I'm sure right now we can see this uncle. We can look at the way the smoking has been explained. Look at the way the fingers have been explained. Look at the third paragraph. My father would usually have smokers do it out in the open. But then with his elder brother, he tried to restrain himself, giving credence to the old adage, blood is thicker than water. I don't know which one, I don't know, after reading this one, I'd like to know your thoughts as teachers. Where would you place that composition? Group 3F, Group 3G, Group 3H. Where would you place that composition? Thank you. I can see a few telling us. Group 3G. Now, for those who are giving wild guess, I can see we have very good teachers here. This composition was given 28. It was given 28. So it is a group 3H, the first level of group 3H. Now, without much ado, let me take you to group 3. Group 3. This is good. Let me take you to group 4. Now, these ones, we call them excellence. Remember, group 1 is poor, group 2 is fair, group 3 is good. Then group 4, these ones are excellent. These ones are rewriters. And there are only 2 categories here, I and J. Group I will have between 31 and 35. Then the best of the best, group 4, J, 36 to 40. Now, what are the characteristics in this group? Candidates communicate, not just communicate, but look at the way they communicate. Fluently, without struggle, attractively, maybe in the choice of words, vivid descriptions, use of items of merit, creatively, with originality and imagination. The writers also in this group makes us share their deep feelings, emotions, and enthusiasm. These are the best of the best writers we have. Anytime you are reading a composition, if the mood is that of sadness, even the writer, at some point, you should feel sad. If the mood is joy, At some point, the reader should feel some joy based on the picture that is being painted, the words that are being used. Now, expressions are free with extreme unusual but appropriate use of language. Extreme. Remember, I said group 3, they make use of unusual but appropriate language. These ones are extreme, and they don't force. It just flows automatically. These writers in group 4, they are good planners. They have humor and often hold the reader in suspense. You will be glued to reading their composition. At no one time will you say no, you put it aside. You want to continue reading. They have a way of getting your attention. This one, we'll call them bread, butter, and beef. Remember, for group 1, for the sake of clarity, we just call them stale bread. Group 2 compositions, we call them plain bread. Group 3, we call them bread and butter. And this one, maybe you can say, you can add something, bread, butter, and beef. Someone was asking me, what is beef doing in the bread? I'll tell you later. Now, look at the group 3 composition. Just take you back. I'm taking you back so that you can connect now. This is group 3 composition. You have seen the choice of words, the spellings, the expressions, items of merit, paragraphing. It is good. Now, how will a G4 write? Because sometimes teachers, we are not able to differentiate between a G3 learner and a G4 when it comes to composition. Now, a G4 will have something like this. It has changed. How did a G3 start? It was irritating. How will a G4 start? My father, who abhors smoking, was visibly offended. I don't know whether you like this sentence or the other one. Again, we can have an argument. He had woken up to a stuffy living room. A G3 had talked of a sitting room. G4 is talking about a stuffy living room as opposed to sitting room. G3 just said, let me just take you back. Stuffy sitting room, choice of words. G4 is talking about living room. There's a difference. Much to his disgust. Dumbfounded, look at the words, comma, his eyes moved from the soot black teeth to the nicotine stained fingers, which told volumes about my uncle's lifelong addiction and sheer enslavement to smoking. So a G4, like you said, this one is in another level, excellence. You can almost see this ankle. You can see the fingers. You can feel the enslavement to a lifelong addiction to smoking. Look at the vivid description. Use of words, very easy. No struggle. We can easily connect. We cannot guess. We are attracted. The language is beautiful. Look at the second paragraph of a G4. Like a zombie, my visiting uncle had planted himself in our sofa, mindlessly smoking thick, offensive fumes from his master. Now, this one has even tried to use symbolism. Instead of saying cigarette, his master, coming from addiction. Usually, my father would not stomach such obnoxious behavior in the house. Without mincing words, he would promptly give the culprit a piece of his mind. But now, however, with his brother, he found his hands tied behind his back and let him go scot-free. Now look at the way G4 ends the composition with a summative paragraph that is on its own. Surely blood is thicker than water. If you compare this composition of a G4 and the one of a G3, I'm sure you can see there's a big difference. There's a big difference. Now, I want to tell you something about G3 students. These are the most sensitive. G3 students are the most sensitive. When we are marking our composition, G3 students are the ones which are either overmarked. You find someone who was supposed to get that getting 35, or either undermarked. You find a script that was supposed to be in group 2 going to group 3, or rather in group 3 going to group 2. These ones are the ones that suffers the wrath of teachers based on maybe on their opinion or how they read or what was expected of them. G3 are the most sensitive because they are either overmarked or undermarked. So for this part, I'll ask the teacher to be very, very careful when identifying those guys in group 3. Those guys in group 3, they should get the necessary help so that they can easily, remember I told you they are very ambitious, group 3 can easily climb to group 4 and they start writing a composition that looks like this. Now in this group 4, I told you this one was given 30. Now, this one, I want teachers to rate this one. I want to see whether you are together. How many marks would you give this composition? Is it a group 4I, group 4J? Before I tell you the marks, how many will you give this one? How many marks will you give? Group 4, this composition. Thank you. I can see 35, 34. There's somebody who has said 33. Now I'm surprised there are some who are saying this one, the one I've given as an example for group 3 is better than group 4. I don't know. There are some people who are saying this one should be group 3 and this one should be group 4. No, this is the one that we have as group 4. So let me see what the teachers have. How many marks would you give this one? Before I tell you, how many marks? Thank you. I can see most of you have tried. Now this composition was given 36. That is group 4J, 36 out of 40. Out of 40. So having gone through the three composition groups, I leave it to you teachers. Please go back to your class, identify the learners, put them into groups or let them put themselves and see what you can do to help each and every one of them. So that at the end of the day, it's about the child, it's about their mark, and you as a facilitator, you should do as you are expected. Thank you. Mr. George, if you can hear me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Nganga, for the wonderful presentation.
Mr. George, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you so much for the wonderful presentation that you've given to us about composition writing, about how to address issues regarding composition. Now we want to go to the other session of question and answer session, the plenary session. Now there are questions that have been raised via chat. I'll give Mr. Ashford time to answer a few. Then from the other participants, in case you have a question that you feel you verbally want to share with the facilitators, there's an icon for raise hand. Sorry, I was saying that there's an icon for raise hand. You'll click it so that we know you have a question that you want to, so that we permit you to talk from the other end if you verbally want to ask a question. But we'll start with the question that had been raised via chat. So I'll give Mr. Ashford time to go through the question and then maybe answer them. After that, we'll go to the verbal questioning.
Thank you, Mr. George, Mr. Raphael, for that session. Let me start with the most active participants. I want to acknowledge as a student here, because you are in our class, you are our students. Geoffrey Maleke, we have noted with a lot of appreciation that you are the most active student of our session. You have put up very many questions on the chat, and I just read one of the many. You said you thought we would use the KCB past papers as resource materials. Geoffrey, that is what we were doing. If you look at the comparative analysis that I did, I actually relied on the KCB 2020 English paper. I didn't use all the others, but that is the particular one I used. Eric Motemi said we focus more on composition writing, and I think that has now been answered by Teacher Raphael. Keegan Kipkoech asked whether the training is for primary or secondary, and by now I think he is well answered. We were training teachers, primary school teachers, particularly the ones handling standard 6, 7, and 8. Caroline Kimani kindly clarify on the tags formed from the model auxiliary verbs. And I want to combine that question with another one here from Ember Academy. Ember Academy, they asked the 11 model auxiliary verbs. If you have a pen, you can write. The 11 model auxiliary verbs. One is will, which becomes und. The short form for will is und, not willent, und. And the short form for und is undent. The next set, number 3, is shall. The short form for shall is not shallent, it is shan't, S-H-A-N''T, shan't, and it changes to shouldn't, and the short form for shouldn't is shouldn't. The next, that is number 5, is can, C-A-N, becomes can't, and the other form of can is couldn't, which becomes couldn't. Basically, you are adding N like that. The next set is may. Then may changes to might. The short form for may is mayn't, right? May, then and N''T, and main becomes might. I am avoiding to call them past tenses because they are actually not past tenses. They have 2 forms. And then the next set is must, and I can see Newton Mulongo has answered that. And the other form, or rather the past form of and, is hand to. And I asked that question in class, and I want to acknowledge Dennis Osumba was the first to get it right. Well done, Osumba. I also want to acknowledge is that wonderful teacher here. His name is Mr. Wesonga of St. John's Academy, Kabula. I am told that is in Bungoma, because he says he's following the lesson together with his learners. Mr. Wesonga pass our love to your learners. And that is very creative of you. Well done for going an extra mile and allowing your learners to get it. I am sure there are many others who are doing it, but Wesonga is the one who put it up in the charts. Cosmas Musembi and many others, Isaac Juma included, are asking for the slides. I am told by now they are streaming. You can check and confirm. We've already shared the slides with you because all of us, our prayer is you get better and we want to get better together. I am also told, not very sure, that we will also be sharing with you the soft copies of our end term exams. We want to give the participants the soft copies of our exams. You look at them, critique us, and then tell us the areas you want us to change. There is Everest Mutemi is asking, I think this will go to Teacher Raphael, focus so much on the composition writing. That one I answered, sorry. Elsie Justus, how important is the title in the composition? That one I can answer that. If Raphael has something to say, title does not count. It is not marked and it does not earn anybody marks, at least for KCPE. However, there's a rider. If you happen to write a title, for example, a journey by bus, or a wedding I attended, or a road accident, and then your composition does not relate to the title, you will be penalized. So we normally advise learners to ignore the title. And I have challenged you teachers. The KCPE newsletter for 2020 is already out. I have my copy already. You can also get your copy and you will notice the best composition for 2020, and that is 6 out of 40. That is 6 out of 40. It does not have a title. By the way, this year, the INSHA beat composition. The best INSHA for 2020 and the 40 marks out of 40. Composition, that is 6 out of that. It is in the newsletter for NEC. You can read that. Alex Wesonga Lubembe differentiate the use of arrived and reached. Arrived and reached. Arrive takes a preposition. Reach does not take a preposition. Arrive at, you reach a place. You reach Nairobi, you reach Kisumu, you reach a place. It does not take a direct preposition, but arrive takes a direct preposition. Elsie Justus is there at standard length for KCPE composition. Very good, Elsie. I hope your learners are listening so that they can also benefit. The standard length for KCPE is 1 page and 3/4. 1 page and 3/4. That is the standard. However, we train our learners to write 2 pages because they say, if you are going to the sun, or is it the moon, you aim at the sun. So we ask them to write 2 pages so that in KCPE, if they are trained for time, they will end up doing 3/4, 1 and 3/4. That is the standard length. I find some teachers asking their learners to do 3 pages. The people who mark composition are paid, and their money is based on the script they mark. Who want to mark 3 pages and it is counted as 1 script? So if they can do 2 pages and they do them very well, there is no need of a 3rd page. You will still get your marks. I am giving you a challenge again. Look at the KCPE newsletter and you notice the composition that win the heart of the markers. Then Alphonse Muindi, what is the past tense of must? I think we have answered that. And I also want to challenge you, take your dictionary, look up the word must, and the notes about must are given there. There was questions are coming in fast and furious. Elias Olongo, what is the must? So what is the most acceptable format of paragraphing in composition writing? Raphael, Raphael?
Yes, yes. Ashford.
I'll pass.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
For Sumba, which sentence is grammatically correct? He is taller than I, or he is taller than I am. Very good. I can see Dennis here labors a lot for his learners. He is taller than I, or he is taller than I am, are both correct. What you do in the second sentence, you have repeated am. Even if you stopped at I, we already know it is you, repetition. So we usually say he is taller than I. But even if you say he is taller than I am, it is the same thing. So basically, the personal pronoun case is there, and you can revisit that in your teaching. Caroline Kimani, I think I read that. I am told Geoffrey was asking about whether one can get the lesson after this. Yes, you can. Go to Kpsa YouTube channel and you'll see the lesson there. You can play it to yourself and you can play it to your learners. Newton Bulongo wanted more explanations on the paragraphing. Mulongo, I am going to read out my number because some of the things we cannot exhaustively cover them now, but we can visit your school. We can do a Zoom like that. And at the beginning of the slide, that is the number for Raphael. And my number is 0722 901710. 0722 901710. And I just saw a question, somebody asking how they can get the KCP newsletter. It is available at only one bookshop in the country, and it is called Mitiani Bookshop. It is located in Nairobi, Aga Khan Walk. It is owned by NEC. You will get the newsletters for all the years, and there is a lot of report and feedback in those newsletters that goes unread. Please read, and you'll be able to get to, you'll make better students, better learners from the ones you have. I think that is it. I don't know whether the ones putting up their hands, you can allow them now to talk. We also want to hear your voices.
Thank you so much, Juan Ashford. I don't know if Mr. Rafa, you have, because some questions are still coming via chat columns. I don't know if you have one or two that you can respond to before we open it up to the plenary. Raphael.
Yeah, Mr. Ashford has answered quite a number of them, but I think I can respond on the issue of composition when it comes to paragraphing. Yes. I want the learners and the teachers to know that we have two types of paragraphing. We have the blocked one, where you don't leave some space. You just skip a line. That's the block. And we have another one called indented paragraph, where you don't skip a line, but you only leave some space. Now, which one do we use in composition? If you look at the composition rubric, the way it starts or the way it comes, most of the time it is paragraphed there, indented paragraph, not block. So if the rubric has already started with indented paragraph, you as a learner, you are supposed to continue with that, not block. And if the rubric has been blocked, you are even supposed to continue with that. But most of the times, we rarely use the blocked one. We use indented, where you leave some space before starting you leave some space when you are starting, but you don't skip a line. So most of the rubrics are indented, so we urge our learners to continue with the same to the end. Now, how important is the title? Like Ashford has said, title, we don't have marks. Just a rider. A title is part of your composition, so it will be marked. Do I have extra marks for composition for the title? No. But again, you have to be very, very careful. If you write a title that is not in line with your storyline, you are highly going to be penalized. So we urge our learners to ignore the title, just leave it, because it can do you more damage than give you some points. I think I've talked about that. What is the most acceptable format of paragraphing? Indented one. That is Elias who had asked. Dennis Osumba, which sentence grammatically correct? That one has been done. What is the past? That one, I think most of the question, Mr. George, Mr. Ashford has answered.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me give a few of them directly to air their questions. We'll start with the Charles Omosa. Charles Omosa, kindly unmute and then ask your question. Charles Omosa, please. You unmute from your end, then you ask your question. We can go to Collins Mukenya if seemingly Charles is not available. Let's go to Collins Mukenya. Collins,
hello.
Kindly. Yes, we can hear you.
How are you?
We are okay.
Now, I'm Teacher Bill. Now, I have questions, especially under compound words. Hello, are you getting me?
Yes. Continue. We are listening.
Okay, now you find that we have these compound words, especially the one dealing with the currency. Like, how can you explain to a learner whereby we have one where maybe you are told he was having a 200 shillings note. The word shillings is having S. You find the other was 200 shilling note, a 200 shilling note, shilling without S. Then there is another one, you find that there is hyphen, maybe between 200 shilling note. There is a hyphen between 2 and 100 and 100 and shilling. So how can we go about such questions? That is the first question I'm having. Now, the second question I'm having is about order of adjectives. Now, for example, there's certain words that it's become very difficult to identify where you can place them. For example, there is an assignment we were doing with class 8 candidates. Now, the order of adjectives, the formula they have, was now quite challenging to them when they were now undertaking the exercise. For example, I will just give you one where we were given Helen Keeler was a dash woman, and in bracket, blind determined. You find that blind started, then it was preceded with the word determined. But now when you are writing the answer, it was determined blind. Now the question was, where do we group this blind? How do this blind come about? Now the second one was, the novel was long, humorous, African. Now the word humorous was following the word long. Now the question was, how do we know where to place such words? Because if you look at the formula, it becomes quite difficult to place. And again, I need more clarity under the same, where we have adjective that is formed as a result of, we say adverb formed as a result of adjective and it follows noun. For example, the word cloud, then we go to cloudy, then it follows noun. So how can we go about such? Then, and in composition writing, I've heard what you say, but now the question is, do we dwell more on descriptive or do we dwell more, because the descriptive part of it is what I understand will bring more marks to learners, but do we measure on descriptive or factual, something of the sort? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bwana Collins. We'll be taking all the questions, then I'll give the facilitators time to answer all of them at the same time. Now let's go to the next person to, we have Selfa Wasike. Selfa Wasike, kindly unmute from your end and then ask your question. Selfa Wasike, if you are there. If English is not there, we can go to Newton Mulongo. Newton. Newton, you unmute and then speak. Selfa, I can see you are now, you can talk, Selfa. Selfa Wasike, kindly speak. You've unmuted yourself, so speak. We can't hear her. Mulongo, Newton. Mulongo.
You? I can get you. Good evening.
Evening to you. Kindly ask your question.
Okay, thank you. I've heard Mr. The one who has just left when he, that has explained about composition has talked about arrived at, arriving and reaching. I say that he arrived doesn't take any preposition. There are, I said reached doesn't take any preposition, but arrived takes preposition. So my question is, for example, in a statement where we can say, do we say I arrived home or I arrived at home? So I wanted to get clarification on that. Secondly, I just wanted to request for a link to the next meeting, because yesterday when those teachers of maths were in a meeting, they were sent links for today's meeting. So it has been very easy. I don't know if I know tomorrow we shall not have a meeting, we shall have it on Thursday. If we can get that link for science on time, we can also appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Madam Mary Awino. Mary Awino, kindly. You unmute and then speak, Mary.
That's a new mute. Atajibu.
Let's go to Enoch Kurui. Enoch Kurui. Enoch, you unmute and then you speak. It's not there. Let's go then to Evans Mogoi. Evans Mogoi, if you're there.
None.
You unmute and then you ask your question.
Yes, hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, we are grateful for the program. And for now, I don't have a question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We saw you had raised your hand. That's why I've given you the chance. Under the raising hand column, you had raised your hand. Isaac Juma. Isaac Juma, kindly unmute and then ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a question concerning the modal verbs, which Mr. Gikunda, hope you're the one who was trying to talk about. You have said that there are two forms of past tenses. And I would like to understand, particularly with reference to the word shall, with appropriate examples to understand better about the same. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Finally, I think I'll give a chance to there is Coriro Jacob. Jacob Coriro.
Thank you, Brother Moderator, for giving me a chance. I just had some sentiments to make. Number one, I appreciate the team for the good work. Then number two, since teachers have got lots of questions, I would suggest, or I'm requesting, if it's possible, we can have such forum, as many as possible. And if possible, we don't mix composition with grammar. We just take a day or 2 hours for grammar only. We ask all the questions and you answer them exhaustively. Then another day, you schedule another meeting for composition so that you can get more and more of the information they want. But now we can't get everything at 100%. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the issue raised. Let me give the last chance now to Patience Muzungu. Patience Muzungu, if you're there, you unmute yourself and then you ask your question. Patience Muzungu.
I saw the question there, but it was not enlightened on. I wanted to ask if you're correcting the learners, let's say they make a mistake, are you supposed to underline or you're supposed to write the right thing that they had, that was supposed to write?
Thank you for the question. I'll give the facilitators to respond to the questions. Of course, I can see many are still raising up their hands, but because of time, we may not be able to answer all the questions at this particular time. However, the facilitators had given you their contacts. You can engage them even beyond this training. But for now, I'll allow Mr. Ashford maybe to answer the few concerns or the few questions that have been raised. Kindly.
Right, thank you. You are very good students. Very participatory, very engaging, and I think we like that. This person who spoke lastly asked whether when you are marking a composition, what should you do with the mistakes that the learner has made? You just underline, because if you correct, you are denying them a chance to learn. If it is spelling, you underline, you underline, you underline. You underline all the spelling mistakes. If you are marking, for example, for your school, you can calculate what we call the average spelling mistakes. The class spelling mistakes. There's a formula there. I will try to remember it and share with you as I answer this. Somebody was asking about the trainings, whether they are regular. And we will be doing the second week of every term. We will be doing these feedback sessions so that we can talk about the exam that was done the previous term. So we will be doing that. Even when we do the head term at the end of this term, we'll also do that. For there was a question put up on the chat by Moses Kiptanui about the negative adverbs that affect the question tags. There are 10 negative adverbs. If you have a pen, you can write. There are 10 negative adverbs. And whenever they are used in a sentence, they make it negative. Therefore, the question tag becomes positive. There are 10 negative adverbs. The first one is the word no. The second one is the word few, F-E-W. The next is the word little, L-I-T-T-L-E. The next is the word hardly. The next is the word scarcely. The next is the word never. Then the next is the one seldom, rarely, barely. The one that teachers may not be aware of maybe is the one no. No is a negative adverb. Few and little, we must have known that from the quantifiers lesson. When we say they mean hardly none. So when they are used in a sentence, they affect the question tag. Our teacher was wondering what to do with the shall and should and the past tense. Modal auxiliary verbs, I want to say this with a lot of caution, do not have a past tense per se, because you can use the word should in a present tense and you can use it in a past tense. When we use the word should in the past tense, we use have to or had to, and you change that. So it is not that they have the three forms like the other verbs, the infinitive, the past form, and the participle form. They happen to have those two forms. You master the 11 models, and the other form they change to. The question on Raphael will also say something on these issues. The question on order of adjectives has been a very thorny issue for a long time. And the reason is different textbooks prescribe different orders. If you have interacted with a number of books, by now you'll be very confused. However, to settle this matter, the formula that I would recommend, and it is not going to fail you, is the following, this acronym: NOSASCOMUG. NOSASCOMUG. N for number, O for opinion, S for size, and we separate the size and the shape with age. Then after age, you go to shape. After shape is color. After color is origin. Origin is also nationality. Then after origin is material or make. And after make is the use or the purpose. And then the noun or the gerund comes there. The fertile ground for testing order of adjectives is when the examiner presents you with the two opinion adjectives. For example, in the case of a dog that is both fierce and ugly, and a dog can be ugly at the same time fierce. If you are making a judgment or you are ordering those two adjectives, the rule is the more opinion adjective is the one that strikes your eyes first. If you met a dog, would you see it fierceness first or the ugliness? You would first see that it is ugly, then you notice it is also fierce. When you go to a boutique to buy a dress that is expensive and beautiful, what will you see first? What strikes your eyes first? It is the beauty of the dress. And you say, wow. And then you realize the other things. Then there was the issue of money and how to apply statement with the money. And this is a standard 2. It is in the standard 2 syllabus under the topic of money. If you revisit that, it is well catered for, the issue of money. And Vitalis Masaka was answering Collins very well in the chat. So this time, I think I'll stop there. Nganga, can you throw in a word? And then George is going to wrap up and we call it a day. I will not talk again after this. So let me take this opportunity to thank you for giving us a hearing. Thank you for the engaging, enriching, and fruitful interaction that we have had. You have our numbers. Let us continue talking. Thank you.
Mr. Nganga Raphael, if you have any other additional information.
Thank you, Mr. George. I don't have any additional information. I only want to add something small on what Ashford has said about order of adjectives. What is the first thing that you see? This is when you are subjected with two adjectives that look like opinion. I also want to add there's something called general truth, the facts. Like for example, I bought a beautiful hand-tailored jacket. So hand-tailored is general truth, and it will always come after opinion. Thank you. Let me take this opportunity also to thank our teachers who have sat for long to listen to us. We wish you all the best as you take this one to your learners, and may God be with you. Thank you. Until next time, we shall talk.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raphael and Mr. Ashford for the wonderful presentations. Right now, I'm taking this chance to welcome my colleague, Mercy Wanjiru, maybe to give us the closing remarks. Mercy Wanjiru, kindly give us the closing remarks before we finally conclude. English is
I'm here, George.
Okay, go ahead, my sister.
Thank you very much and good evening, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for the wonderful session that we've had. I'm sure we've learned one or two things, and I want to appreciate the facilitators for the wonderful job. For sure, you've exceeded our expectation, and I want to believe that our teachers have learned something. And as one of the presenters said, we will be having this kind of trainings, capacity buildings, so that we can equip all our teachers, so that we can just be competent and be among the best, and they can make our schools the centers of excellence. So I just want to stress on the issue of the link. People are asking about the link. Kindly, there's a link that has been posted on the chat box. You can click to that link, and then of course you'll be able to save the presentations on your drive. Depending now with the email that you've registered with, you should be able to get to access those notes. So I just want to remind all of us, especially the ones who have not booked our midterm 2 assessments and exams, that the bookings are ongoing and the deadline is on Friday, the 22nd. So I'm making an appeal to all of you, especially the ones who have not booked. Kindly make arrangement and send your bookings so that we get enough time to do the packaging, and also we can be able to dispatch the exams on time. And I want to assure you, as we did last time, you should be able to get your exams and assessments on time. Thank you very much. My name is Mercy, and I'm the program's assistant. God bless.
Thank you so much, Mercy. Maybe in addition to what you've said, I would like to inform all the teachers that such trainings are still ongoing. Yesterday we had mathematics teachers being trained. Today we have teachers of English. On Thursday, the trainings will continue. We'll have science, and the link for joining the meeting for science teachers training is already on the chat box. Maybe you can inform the teachers that handle science subjects in your respective schools and give them the link, so that on Thursday, same time from 3 to 6, they'll join the meeting on that day. On Friday, we'll have social studies. Teachers for social studies will go through the same, but of course with different facilitators. On Saturday, 3 to 6, we'll have Kiswahili/Insha. Then Monday next week, it will now be CBC classes. Monday we'll have training for PP1 and PP2 teachers. On Tuesday next week, we'll have grade 1, 2, and 3 training for those teachers for grade 1, 2, and 3. And we'll wind it up on Wednesday next week by taking training for teachers of grade 4 and 5. So kindly inform your schools, inform your teachers that Kpsa have lined up trainings for all classes and in all subjects up to Wednesday next week. Otherwise, I also take this chance to wish all of us Mashujaa Day, given that tomorrow will be Mashujaa Day. Remember that the first Shujaa in your life is your mom or dad. Kindly honor them. If there's a time that you need to celebrate them, it is this time. The first Shujaa for you as an individual are your parents. Otherwise, I'll request again my sister and colleague Mercy to kindly lead us in a closing prayer as we finish up the session. Mercy, karibu.
Okay, thank you very much, George. Let us pray. Father, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we come before you this evening. We want to thank you, Jehovah God, for the gift of life. We thank you, Lord, even for the session we had today. We thank you, God, because of your grace that has been sufficient to each and every one of us, oh God. We give all the praise, we give all the honor, oh God. Thank you even for the resources, Lord, that you've given unto us to enable us, God, even to attend those sessions. We give all the praise, we give all the honor. I want to commit each and every teacher who is represented on this forum today. How I pray, Jehovah God, that you will continue blessing them, oh God. And even as they teach our children, Lord, I pray that you're going to see them through, that you're going to give them grace, that you're going to give them wisdom, oh God, that sound health shall be their portion in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you, Jehovah God, even for the facilitators and everyone else who was involved in planning and facilitation of today's session, oh God. How I pray that you're going to bless them at every point of need. I pray that Jehovah God, you're going to bless them in all their endeavors, oh God. We thank you even for the sessions that are ahead of us. How I pray, Lord, that you shall give us the grace, that Jehovah God, they shall be successful for the glory and honor of your name. We pray that you're going to take care of us. You're going to take care of each and every teacher, each and every family which is represented here, oh God, for the glory and honor of your name. We thank you. We give all the glory in Jesus'